Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. Later in the show, Susan Levy chats with author Cynthia Leitich Smith, who will discuss her latest book entitled On a Wing and a Tear.
I'm Susan Levy, and with us in the studio today is Margaret, Talia White, and Laura Medina. Hello, both of you. Welcome.
Hi.
And today we're going to talk about the American Indian Institute at Mesa Community College and how they provide academic, cultural, and social support for Native students. So again, welcome. And we're here and glad that you're going to talk to us about what you guys are doing. Okay, so before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself. Talia?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Susan, for having us here. We're really excited.
We love having you here, always.
Yes, definitely. So we're really excited to, be here today to talk about, our upcoming event and everything. But a little bit about myself. My name is Talia. I work at the American Indian Institute at Mesa Community College. I'm Navajo. I'm originally from Fort Defiance area and, been down here in the Valley providing student support services at Mesa Community College. And so it's been a wonderful experience, and I have the opportunity to work with wonderful people like Laura and Raetana, so I'm really excited to be here.
And sorry, I forgot to mention Raetana's here too. I apologize.
It's okay. Raetana, Mannie.
Question for you. So, Talia, how many years have you been at the American Indian Institute?
So, it's been off and on. I worked in tribal college, university sectors, as well as at universities like as University of Arizona. So I returned back to MCC back in 2020. So now it's been like almost 4 years, I guess. So working with Native students there.
You do such a tremendous job. I hear the most amazing feedback truly about you and how caring you are and how grounded you keep everything. So
oh yeah, thank you.
I hear like a lot of great things. Okay, so Laura, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Laura Medina. I am from Grand Traverse Band. Well, that's where I'm enrolled in, is Grand Traverse Band in Michigan. However, I was raised on the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation. I am currently the outreach specialist for the Wasaja Clinic out in Fort McDowell. And I am also one of the co-founders and organizers for Matriarch Ways Incorporated, which is a nonprofit here in Maricopa County. But we try to serve all of Arizona.
Cool.
And then we have our other member of Matriarch Ways is Raetana.
Hi, good to meet you. I am Danette and Mashika. As far as where my family's from, we're in the Ganado area. So I've lived in the Valley my entire life, but a little bit more about me is I work in the medical field as an operations manager, and I've been partnered with Laura for quite some time, like 8-9 years, like very long time, maybe even 10, I don't know, long time. Just organizing events, getting to know our community, serving people the best we can, making connections, just trying to really build a good community here in the Valley. Simply because I know living here and being away from the res, like it's missed sometimes, most of the time.
And I know you all do a lot of different great events in town.
Yes.
So can't wait to hear more. Okay. So Talia, first, can you tell us what programs you have at Mesa Community College, the American Indian Outreach Program or the Institute, what you all do for students, and also do you have any programs for high school students?
Yeah, definitely. So at the American Indian Institute, we have kind of like 4 pillars that we try to focus on: cultural resilience, career development and leadership, community outreach, and then academics as well. Within all of those things, we prioritize our students in the services that we provide in terms of enrollment, admissions, financial aid, tribal scholarship assistance, degree selection, course registration, transferability to universities, and then just getting them connected to community resources, providing cultural programming, which is really amazing. This connection that we have here today and the event that we're going to be promoting here on this platform really is just an amazing opportunity, not only for our students, for our communities as a whole.
And then I want to just ask you, do you guys have Hoop of Learning there?
Yes, we do. So our Hoop of Learning is such an amazing program for our high school students across the valley. So MCC is one of the institutions within Maricopa Community College District that offers this opportunity. So they pay for your tuition, your fees, your books. And so it's just really an opportunity for students to get ahead and get those college credits started. And so by the time that they are high school graduates and they're coming into, higher education, post-secondary education, they kind of have, that foundation underneath them to make them successful. So they are accepting applications through our early college program at MCC. So if anybody's interested, they can outreach to them.
Is that juniors and seniors?
They're freshmen to senior.
Oh, you can do it as freshmen?
Yes, ma'am. So you can actually enroll the second semester of your freshman year. And so students can earn, I think, 30 plus credits by the time they're high school seniors.
Wow, that's awesome. Then you could go in as almost halfway through your freshman year of college.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And get a jump on it. Cool. And you said tuition's paid for?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay, well, now we're going to talk about what we're really here for. Sorry about that. Okay, so I know you all have a lot of upcoming events, right, at Mesa Community College. So what's coming up? And tell us more about the different programs and what's planned.
So we have two major events that are coming up. One being on September 30th. That's going to be our Orange Shirt Day event. It's going to be an open mic night, and it's really going to be an opportunity for our community members, our staff, our students to come together to recognize our ancestors, our descendants, our survivors, victims of boarding schools and residential schools. And so we're providing this opportunity for people to express themselves artistically, whether that be through poetry, music, or even if they want to come out and just tell a story of their grandparents, their parents, or even of themselves in that experience. But we just want it to be, uplifting and recognize, all of the people that have been affected and the generations that are still being affected today.
So for everybody that's here today, what does Orange Shirt Day mean to you? So Talia, I guess since you're on my left, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so Orange Shirt Day for me, I had my grandfather, my grandparents that went to Sherman Indian School out in Riverside, just hearing those experiences of, how my family was taken from their home place and, basically stripped from their culture, their language, their land, their people, and taken to these foreign areas is just, very just impactful on who I am today. And, my grandfather, he was taken to LA and he lived a good majority of his life out there. And at one point, he finally came home, and I'm just so grateful that he made his way back home. And, we have those cultural ties to who I am as an Indigenous Diné woman. And so I'm really, really thankful for that. Likewise, my grandmother, she was taken to Albuquerque, or she was told she was going to be taken to Albuquerque, and then she ended up at Sherman Indian School as well. So just having those stories that are not even just generations away, but just one generation, it's just how many other people have those experiences, and how does that affect us today? And I think that's really important to just remember and acknowledge that we're still here, we're still fighting, we're still learning our language, culture, and we're still going to be here no matter what generations to come.
And Laura or Raetana, anybody want to add into that?
Yeah, I would like to add in. So my experience is pretty similar to Talia. My grandmother did go to Sherman as well. And a lot of the experiences she had weren't always the best, but she did also have some good memories, which I think is super cute. But one thing she did, I think she was probably there later when they were starting to change a bit, is she did remember learning about all the different Indigenous cultures while she was there. Which when she came back to the res, and of course, my family, were able to really appreciate other Indigenous cultures, have a broader understanding, which is nice. So acknowledging that, yes, there's a lot of bad things that happen, but when you're able to come back, it's just really great to be able to make that connection and community. And I think the Orange Shirt Day really helps bring community and healing and just kind of reconnecting to things that really make us Indigenous people and help us thrive when we're away from home.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, the Orange Shirt Day, I'm glad they started to raise awareness. And it started up north, and it was because they were trying to do this reconciliation. But I think what people are starting to understand is the tactics and the strategies used to colonize indigenous people and to really break our spirit, really to make us not of who we are, the kill the Indian, save the man type of agenda and the regime that really disrupted our family dynamics and how we parent and how our roles in our families and that disruption. And that is why decolonization and resurgence is so important. And to not only to heal, but to raise awareness of what is happening and how that is even continuing today with the genocide with the missing and murdered indigenous women, and how that continues and perpetrates. A lot of people think colonization is the past, but it's continuing, and it's happening in all these different ways. And it's beautiful that they are finally uncovering all of our lost relatives during this regime of taking our children, stealing them, and disrupting that family dynamic, and to realize how horrible a lot of these boarding schools were to even have a gravesite on a lot of these, if not every single boarding school that existed.
So that's one event that we're coming up on. And then our wonderful, amazing opportunity of Indigenous Peoples Day conference is what we've been working on with Matriarch Ways. And that's going to be on October 14th.
It's a Monday, right?
It's on a Monday,
Okay.
yep. And so it's going to be at MCC at the Navajo Room. Between doors open at 9 a.m. and then the event is all the way till 4 p.m. And I'm sure Laura can talk a little bit more about, her vision and how the conference came to be, because it's been around for quite some time.
All right, Laura, so let's hear what you've got planned for Indigenous Peoples Day on the 14th at MCC.
Yes, so Indigenous Peoples Day Arizona, we have been organizing. This will be our 9th annual. And it all started as a vision of community, bringing community awareness. A lot of us were land and water defenders and raising awareness on different issues. And in order to remain relevant, it's also important to provide it in a way that's entertaining and relevant to the community. So we have music, we have speakers, cultural people who share their cultural with us, as well as free food if you register, and live art. And we talk about the important things: decolonization, resurgence, land and water defense, and why we need to protect our earth.
Raetana, you want to add anything to that?
So we do a lot of that. And I really enjoy the food.
Okay, well then if we're going to talk about food, what kind of food is it going to be?
Oh.
That's okay.
Wow.
What kind of food do you have planned?
I actually don't know. But
That's okay.
It's always a local chef, usually indigenous foods.
Right.
In the past, we've done bison tacos, we've done mutton, straight from the res, and cooked in the ground. Just lots of yummy indigenous foods that kind of make you feel at home, like you're eating with family.
Yeah, and actually this year, Raetana, I think, missed out on our discussion about the food last time. So we're actually having Danella from Nella's Innovations.
Yeah, we
so
know
Chef
Danella.
Nella's going to come out, do her thing, and she's amazing, and she's very supportive of MCC and, just grassroots efforts, and we really appreciate her, and her help.
She's a great chef. Okay, so what's she going to make, or can you not say?
She has a whole fancy menu, and so I don't think I would do it justice if I try to explain it myself. But I know it's tempura nacho. I don't even think I'm.
The tempura bean.
Tempura bean,
yes. Yep, from probably Ramona Farms. Yep.
She's doing that. We're doing an indigenous breakfast type of setup. So that could be anything like blue corn, pancakes. There's all kinds of really amazing food she has planned.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I think you said it's 9 to 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, so is this a pop-in so I can go for an hour or two, or do I need to sign up for the whole day? Can I go for lunch and hear maybe a speaker? So how is it all set up?
Well, that's the point of it being a conference. Is
Okay,
for
so it's
you
conference.
all to make sure you stay for the whole day.
Okay.
That's how you get the best of the information. That's
Okay.
also how community more or less is developed. That's really what we pride ourselves on, is creating community engagement opportunities and to connect. That's what we really believe in, is that quote, it takes a village to raise a child. And we as Indigenous folks, really want to bring in that component of, our village here in this community, even as urban as it can be really grounded on good principles and foundation of really centering our children and our family and creating safe space for them.
So is this event open just for adults? If teens aren't in school that day, can they attend as well, or families, or who's it geared for?
Yeah, so the great thing about Indigenous Peoples Day conference is it's all ages. So children, I've taken my children in the past. There's quite a bit of children actually come, teens, elders.
So anybody's welcome.
Anybody.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys do any of you that want to share like a favorite memory from one of the past events that you've done?
Oh my gosh, so many. But yes, definitely the first Indigenous Peoples Day Arizona, which was at Puente Human Rights, which is actually Talia. She presented. She was our. She has amazing poetry. I don't know if you all know that about her. She's an amazing poet.
I did not know that.
And yes, she shared some pieces of that. So it was definitely the first one, seeing it all come together and what we visioned it to be. Because there was one before IPD AZ, and that was more grounded on the abolish of Columbus Day, the resistance, and to continue that, we wanted to fuel that type of movement.
Just going off of that, yeah, I was one of the featured artists, I think twice during the span of, the run of IPD AZ conference. And it was just an amazing experience to see families, children, just everybody just come out, support one another, be a part of something that's just amazing, and it makes you feel good. It's filled with prayer and happiness and joy and just connection. And so just to be a part of that, those positive vibrations was just really great. So that's been my experience, and just to kind of like extend that invitation to other artists and people across the valley and beyond to experience that is an amazing opportunity.
So, okay, the morning is going to start, I'm assuming, like blessing land acknowledgement, right? And then going to like, is it going to be, you're going to have speakers, like a panel right away, or how? Any ideas or anything you can tell us about, or that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, so we're going to be having some speakers talk about, kind of like family connections. We have hoop dancer Cooper that's going to be doing that. He's, a youth that does hoop dancing across the valley, so we're going to be supporting him in that, and his family, Miss Bobby Nez. And then also we're going to be having Two-Spirit, acknowledging our Two-Spirit relatives. We're going to have a presentation by Miss Navi Ho, which is going to be an amazing kind of presentation. And then also, like Laura had mentioned, like land and water defense panelists. We'll have students presenting. We'll also have hip-hop artists like Bless One, who's from the Navajo Nation, Tate Walker. She's going to be doing poetry. And then we'll also have Miss Swade doing some round dance songs and, getting us off of our feet and getting us moving.
One of my favorite experience, well, every year is my favorite experience, but I'm a dancer, so we do Azteca dancing, Mexica dancing there, and one of my favorite times was when the group ended up bringing, like, the crowd in. So it was, like, everyone was dancing, and that's, like, kind of my favorite part every single year. But this year, my danza group will be there as well. They're Yolo and Cuautli, located here in, like, Salt River, Scottsdale area.
So it sounds like it's going to be a great conference.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like you get a lot of people that come.
Usually, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are filling out our registration form, and again, you have to register to kind of like, get your first dibs on the food. So that list is filling up fast.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to circle back. So it's going to be at Mesa Community College in the Navajo Room, which is that's the Library Student Union?
It's like in the center of campus near the clock tower.
Okay, and it's open to anybody, and kids, teens, adults, elders, everybody's welcome, right?
Yes.
But they do need to pre-register, correct? So
Well, it's not mandatory, but also
recommended so they get a meal,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that their name's on the list for the food.
Yes.
That's the important step. What else does MCC have anything else planned? The American Indian Institute planned for this fall? So I know you've got your Orange Shirt Day, you've got Indigenous Peoples Day. Do you have anything else you're working on, or is there going to be a powwow later next year?
So as part of our partnership, we actually have an amazing workshop that's being presented with Matriarch Ways this Sunday, and we're doing like an autumn sandal making workshop. And so each
Oh, yeah, we
semester-
posted that.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for that.
That went quick. Yeah, our registration went quick on that.
Yeah. When we post that stuff, it goes really fast.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that this weekend. Each semester we try to host at least up to 2 cultural workshops. So we'll have another one coming up for Native American Heritage Month.
Do you know what that's going to be yet?
We haven't determined those details yet.
All right.
But we'll keep you informed. And then, October, I'm sure is going to fly right by. And then we'll be in Native American Heritage Month, where we're going to have our Miss Native MCC pageant. We're going to have our cultural workshop. We're also going to have a Native American Heritage Month speaker. Our Native American Heritage Month speaker is going to be on November 6th. Miss Native MCC pageant will be November 21st.
Okay.
And then our cultural workshop is still being determined, as I mentioned.
All right. So how can people register? Is it a website? Since we don't have a QR code on the radio, can't do that. Just tell us where they can go to get signed up for this.
So right now it's mainly on social media. So if you have a Facebook, just type in Indigenous Peoples Day Arizona. Our event page should pop up. And in the location area, there'll be a registration code. You can also go to the Matriarch Ways Instagram page, and on our LinkedIn, we'll have the registration link in there as well. And I'm sure MCC will be posting it out as well. Or you can also just message us any of the American Indian Institute social media pages or the Matriarch Ways page, and you can request for us to send you the link.
So they could DM you on Instagram and then
Yes.
just ask for that. Anything else you guys want me to say before we close out? No?
No,
Okay.
I think we covered it all, and I look forward to seeing everybody. And thank you so much for having us.
Talia, we always love having you on all the time.
Oh, thank you.
And both of you, Lauren Raetana, sorry. I'm glad you both are here, and I can't wait to learn more about what Matriarch Ways is doing. And I just really want to thank you all for coming in. It's always fun to have you here and learn more about what you're doing and all the great stuff you've got planned, and you always impact so many people. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Coming up on Native Talk Arizona, we'll chat with author Cynthia Leitich Smith. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 2423 West Dunlap Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org.
So welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. And I'm Susan Levy, and with us today is author Cynthia Leitich Smith, who's been publishing books short stories, essays, and poetry for young readers since 2000. Her latest book is entitled On a Wing and a Tear. Hello, Cynthia, and welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we're super excited, and the book is amazing. But before we get started, please tell us about yourself, your journey, and your Indigenous background and heritage.
Certainly. Again, my name is Cynthia Leitich Smith. I'm an author of books for young readers. I write picture books, middle grade, and young adult, mostly fiction. A lot of it is grounded and or inspired by Native culture and heritage. I personally am a tribally enrolled citizen of Muskogee Nation and a descendant of Cherokee Nation, and that specific tribal affiliation is part of the reason that I wrote this book in terms of our history with removal and relocation.
Well, you've written so many of our favorite books. We have like an Indigenous library here at Native Health, and we have a lot of your the younger children's books that we read at a lot of our events.
I'm honored.
And we love them. So we've got lots of different classes and different programs that we've used them for. So really, we have a lot of your stuff.
More to come.
Yeah, so we love your stuff. Anyway, so tell us about the books you've written, what ages you enjoy writing for. I know you mentioned middle school, but I know you've done some other ones. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. First, it might be helpful to know that most of my stories are somehow interconnected. There are 4 main families that I write about. In some cases, I've needed to request permission to use a name, and therefore you can see recurring characters from one book to another. My first book, Jingle Dancer, is a contemporary powwow picture book. It's about a young girl bringing together her regalia with the help of women of each generation of her family and community. I've also done books like Indian Shoes, which is set in the city of Chicago and features that urban experience of going back and forth to your homeland for special occasions, family occasions, tribal events, that sort of thing. And I've worked on young adult novels, most recently Harvest House, which is a ghost mystery. It touches on the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit relatives, but it is also kind of Scooby-Doo meets Nancy Drew in Indian country, if you will. I've got a group of teenagers who are using their skills in theater and as journalists and their community ties to solve what has happened in a way that will raise awareness and hopefully bring to light some of the topics that we've been talking about within our communities, but aren't necessarily as well known more broadly.
Wow. How many books have you written?
Oh, gosh, over 20 books now. I haven't done a recent count. I know always working on more. In addition to writing my own books, I'm the author-curator of a Native imprint at Harper Children's, so my head is full of stories.
That's awesome. Wow, what a gift. And so you've been doing this since 2000, correct?
My first book came out in 2000, and it was with Rosemary Brosnan, who is the editor of the Heart Drum imprint. I've done most of my Native books with her.
Okay, and I know we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, tell us about your new book, On a Wing and a Tear. What is that about?
On a Wing and a Tear is essentially it's a middle grade road trip adventure story. We've got 2 young protagonists, Ray Half Moon, who is a Cherokee Seminole, and Melanie Roberts, who's a Muskogee Ottawa. They're essentially living as siblings or cousins because Mel and her mom are renting out the attic at Ray's family home. One day, the kids are called to action by Bat, the legendary ball player who won the great game back in traditional stories between the birds and animals. Turns out Bat has a torn wing, and he needs their help to get all the way from Chicago to the Okmulgee Mounds outside of Macon, Georgia. The kids aren't sure what to think in this modern folklore story. You know, these are contemporary kids. They go to school, they shop at Target, they know their stories, but they never expected to be confronted with one, so to speak. And they go to Grandpa Half Moon to ask his assistance, thinking that's going to be a challenging topic. But it turns out Grandpa and Bat are old buddies. They have a long history. And so our heroes load up and they go from oh gosh, we go from Iowa City to Wallace State Park in Missouri to small town Kansas through Cherokee Nation, rural Mississippi, and all the way down to the Ocmulgee Mountains, which is, again, the birthplace of our nation. It's been there for tens of thousands of years, and our young heroes, as bat wing heals for the big game, have a chance to heal Ray from the loss of his father and Melanie from her parents' recent divorce. So, it's very much a story that's rooted in modern times, but also harkens to that traditional storytelling tradition. And it's one in which the young characters are experiencing a full range of emotion. There is a bit of a conflict with these nefarious vloggers who want to get Bat on camera to sell his special abilities for profit, and our kids are there to save the day.
So how'd you come up with this book? Were you just laying in bed one morning and thought of it, or any ideas? How did you come up with this?
Well, I knew the characters of Ray and Melanie from previous stories. Ray first debuted along with his grandpa Half Moon in Indian Shoes, which is a book I specifically wrote to give representation to urban Native kids. He and Melanie met in a short story that appeared in my anthology, Ancestor Approved Intertribal Stories for Kids, and it seemed like a natural next step for them to have a big adventure together. They're among my most popular characters, and I wanted to give them room to sort of breathe in a larger narrative than the short stories in which they were first introduced.
Okay. So, and then I'm assuming that I'm probably jumping ahead, but that you're going to have a sequel, right?
From your mouth to the publisher's ears, we'll see how it goes. But if there is enough interest and enthusiasm, then these are characters I certainly love to write. And there are plenty of seeds to keep growing in all of their stories. We do have some mysterious creatures who do appear that are likewise related to Muskogee folklore. And we even have a hint of romance for Grandpa Half Moon and his high school sweetheart. And who knows where that could go.
All right. So I know you touched on it briefly, but how do you capture family life in a Native community through the eyes of Mel and Ray?
I think that when I'm writing, I don't think about how will I translate these life ways to the masses. I think about these specific characters, their worldview, their daily lives, their experiences, and I just keep it really grounded in them. As kids, I want our kids to be able to read these books and not think that they're being written for outsiders to learn about us. I want them to think, hey, these are kids that I have things in common with, that I relate to, in certain ways, some of which are culturally grounded and some of which aren't. Maybe they're like Ray and they also are an artist, or they're like Melanie and they're very shy and awkward and a little bit bookish. So that is, I keep it real. I keep it about modern kids and individual kids and the way that they perceive life. And I believe that that's actually the most effective way that I can teach the wider audience. I know I took French language lessons for many years in high school. It was required, and in college. But it wasn't until I had the opportunity to do the study abroad program in Paris that all of a sudden I was fully absorbing it. I think that rather than try to write books that explain our life ways to other people, we should write books that make sense to us and trust that kids from other communities are smart enough, if they're submerged, to get their feet under them, that they will care about these characters and they will come to a higher awareness. It's more grounded in their heart and mind than something that's just flowing at them.
Definitely. Okay. So tell me, why did you choose a bat as the feature animal, and how does he help weave the story back to the ancestors and advances the story?
We have a traditional story about how Bat won a ball game between the birds and animals by flying high and catching a ball in his teeth. And what does that story say to our littles, to the very young ones? They say, even though you're very small, you can make a difference. Even though your gifts might be different from someone else, there's still a place for you. And so Bat to me has always been somewhat of a symbol of our youngest people, our young readers, And I thought, well, this is an opportunity to show Bat, who has really come into his own now over the ages. But I pair him with another character called Gray Squirrel. And Gray Squirrel is just starstruck by Bat. I mean, of course, she's heard all the stories, and she's never met a celebrity before. And she has all of that hopping little squirrel energy. Plus, squirrels are like superheroes of the animal world. I mean, a squirrel even lands as though they're mighty Thor. If you look at them, they're fierce and they're fearless, and they've got all these special abilities. So I thought that combining these two and then having them touch base with other animal characters along the way would make it feel grounded. And the story is really focused on the kids, but you get this wider sense of the larger world around them. And also, frankly, a lot of the humor comes naturally out of the difference in perspective. What a squirrel thinks about television is in and of itself an opportunity to give a little perspective we might not always hear.
So does the title of the book, On a Wing and a Tear, does that have to do with the bat wing?
Yes and no. It's either a wing and a tear or a wing and a tear.
Okay.
So if you look at it in terms of a wing and a tear, it could be seen as a reference to removal of the Trail of Tears. I have been asked for years if I would ever write a story about that, but I'm a contemporary writer, not a historical one, and I'm mostly a humor writer when it comes to my contemporary books, although they definitely have heartfelt moments. So I decided to write a story about coming home instead, going back to the ancestral land and reconnecting it. And so there is that aspect of it. But there's also, for each of the young characters, something that they're working their way through. Melanie is feeling estranged from her father because of her parents' recent divorce and his remarriage. Ray is missing his father, who has passed away. And so they are healing internally as Bat's wing is healing externally. And that brings us to the conclusion where it all sort of comes together.
The book sounds amazing. So, okay.
I hear it's good.
Did you or do you draw on much of your own cultural heritage to create these characters? You sort of alluded to it, but can you expand on that?
Well, definitely modern folklore in and of itself is as culturally grounded as you can get. And we are starting to see more of that in the world of children's literature. My favorite example is the books of Brian Young, who's a Navajo author. You may be familiar with Healer of the Water Monster, Heroes of the Water Monster.
Yep, we've had him on here.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I love what he's doing, and he works with me at Heart Drum to get those stories out into the world. We're so excited about them. I want to see more of that kind of narrative if it feels true to the individual storyteller, because if you look at tribal nations from different regions, there are a lot of idiosyncratic stories, but there are also a lot of overlapping ones, and many of the values, even though the cultures are specific, are felt on a parallel level. There are certainly shared values that we all have, and we can celebrate in the pages of books and come to be more comfortable with and better understand each other in the larger intertribal community.
This book that you've written, you said it's for middle schoolers. And so would that be like 5th to 8th grade or early high school? What kind of ages do you envision?
Middle school or middle grade. The characters themselves are middle school age, but I would say that a strong or avid reader who's in 4th grade could certainly handle this, and the material is completely age appropriate. But I could absolutely see 8th graders gravitating toward it as well.
Okay. Now, is your book already available?
The publication date is September 17th. So depending on where you are and when you're listening, the answer is, I hope so. And it's definitely a title that you can ask for at any bookstore or public library, even if it's not on the shelves.
Okay. And is it Wing and a Tear or Wing on a Tear? Since I apologize if I mispronounced that.
It's actually both.
Okay.
So it is your choice.
Okay. All right. And then is it going to be available on Amazon and different booksellers?
Yes, all of the places.
Okay.
I always recommend people to maybe take a look at bookshop.com and, be aware also of your indigenous-owned bookstores like Birchbark.
Oh, yeah. They're great.
Books and, yes, based out. I actually had the opportunity to visit this past year, and it was a highlight of my career. So yeah, support your booksellers in your communities and go in and be part of that.
Okay. All right. So then I also want to ask you, do you think it's important to let readers know about contemporary life in Native American communities and the way you had presented it, that it's contemporary and they're shopping at Target? And I know you've mentioned it, but you do think that's important, right?
I think it's critical. So much of the imagery that comes out of society about Native people is that we are these misty, dusty creatures of lore, as opposed to 21st century people from growing, thriving nations, that we are actually reclaiming cultures, cultural aspects that have been denied us, like the revitalization around tribal languages. And while the challenges still exist, yes, absolutely, there's a lot of good news too. And we really want our young kids to be aware of that they are people with a past, certainly, and we must remember it and be honest about it, but also of the present. They are valid as who they are today, and they always will be.
Well, I know the book is going to be a huge hit. You also mentioned a couple minutes ago about the creation of like Heart Drum at HarperCollins. Mm-hmm. So what is Heart Drum?
Heart Drum is a Native-focused imprint of HarperCollins children's books. And when I say imprint, if you think of a publishing company like a big umbrella, imprint is like a little umbrella under that big umbrella. And it was important to me and to the folks at We Need Diverse Books that we have the support of one of these really big publishers. We've always had Native voices in children's publishing, but we're usually found at smaller presses, at regional or university presses. There are a few tribal presses and Native-owned presses, and we are working with them on an ongoing basis as well. But we want to see what we could do with sort of some big New York energy behind us and get the opportunity to really put our stories out there on a larger stage, make them more available to more kids and more places. And so I approached my original children's book editor, Rosemary Brosnan. She had published Jingle Dancer, Rain Is Not My Indian Name, and Indian Shoes, which were my first books back in the early 2000s. And I knew that her heart was in the right place. She was doing that kind of work when nobody was, when there wasn't a conversation around diverse books, or when we didn't have movie stars, And so she was really enthusiastic about it, and I had a yes within 24 hours. We originally were thinking we might do 2 to maybe 4 to maybe 6 books a year. I think we have 9 this year, and they're beautiful, and they're being embraced by all kinds of readers. JoJo McCoon is our chapter book series. The author, Don Quigley, refers to it as Junie B. Jones on the Red. And it's about this little Ojibwe girl with a ton of attitude, and they're hilarious. And there was nothing like that when I was a kid growing up. So I'm so excited that the books are so popular and well received in general. And if you can imagine, Native kids and little girls, Ojibwe kids being able to see their language on the page, that's exciting. It's a sea change. And for all the challenges still in front of us, this is still a time of great celebration.
So I know you mentioned that they have 9 books this year. So how many authors are represented under Heart Drum?
Oh, gosh, I haven't counted. If I had to guess, keep in mind we have illustrators too.
Okay.
And a picture book illustrator is as much a creator, of course, as the text writer. I would say over 50 people all together. And then we also, that would be authors and illustrators. We work with also Indigenous voice actors for the audiobooks, which is fabulous and gives them an opportunity to bring the authenticity of their perspective to these fictional casts. We work with Native teachers and librarians to provide teacher guides so that educators and homeschoolers who aren't sure about what language you should use or what questions are okay to ask have that provided to them. There are a couple of Native people working in-house now at HarperCollins, a marketing person and a copy editor. So it's really, it's part of a larger conversation, both on the page and behind the byline, so that, we can really revisit and reconfigure some of these systems in a way that is more inclusive and aware and effective.
But good for them for doing Heart Drum, because that's a lot of people, a lot of representation.
It's a lot of people.
That's
it's
awesome.
A huge corporate investment. And, honestly, they could not be more enthusiastic. They are going above and beyond. We're getting marketing support that I could have never imagined. And as someone who's been in the business for, a couple of decades now, I know what is standard. And this is so much. Plus, the books are being very well received. They're getting, I'm Wing and a Tear has received 3-star reviews so far. A lot of our books are being very highly acclaimed. They're winning significant recognition, both from, say, the American Indian Library Association Award, and also more broadly, Resball by Byron Graves won the Morris Award, and that's for the best debut book of the year for young adults. That's huge.
That is huge.
So we're not only saying, hey, we've got new voices who have something to share, we're also saying that we can compete on any level against any other narrative and visual storytellers.
That's awesome. So if somebody wanted to find out about Heart Drum, would they go to harpercollins.com, or would they just go to Heart Drum and Google it?
They can absolutely Google Heart Drum. They can go to Harper Children's and find it there, or they can come to my website at CynthiaLeitich.com, and that will send them. They can click to learn more about me, or they can click to learn more about the imprint.
Okay. All right. So a couple more questions for you. So
Sure.
And you sort of mentioned it, why you thought it was important that HarperCollins had created Heart Drum. And it sounds like you've got some amazing authors, which I didn't even think of, the illustrators and the voiceover, the voice authors, just amazing, and more representation and wider range of books to get them out to the public and to the Indigenous community. So pretty amazing. But overall, do you think there's been more writers and exposure of Indigenous literature across different genres, not just children's?
Yes, I do. I do think that there were always more in adults than there were in children's and YA, but I think that we're seeing specifically more representation of women's voices. That when I think back, even if I think back in terms of children's and YA, the sort of bigger name authors who were able to sustain careers during publishing recessions were all men. And now we're seeing more diversity from within, including, Afro-Indigenous folks, more Two-Spirit folks. I think that we are moving to a place that is both bigger in number, but also more varied and showcasing the truth of all the ways in which our stories and our humanity can manifest itself.
Well, I'm glad to see there's more writers and illustrators and more people in this field. So what plans do you have for the future? I know you said there's always some stories kind of in the back of your head. Do you have another book that you're planning? I know you said not this one immediately, but a different one that's coming up?
Well, my next release for young adults will be an anthology I edited, the second anthology that I've edited, and it's called Legendary Fry Bread Drive-In. It is a collaborative effort of 17 Native authors, including some folks who are just amazing national award winners, New York Times bestsellers, and brand new voices who were elevating and giving a chance to kind of play creatively in our world. And it's a portal story. Basically, any kid from any res or any urban area stumbles upon this legendary fry bread drive-in founded by the legendary grandparents when they need it most. And the stories are fairly upbeat, although they do touch on real adolescent topics that are relevant to the audience. So there's that, which is a lot of fun. And then my next picture book will be called Here Come the Aunties, which is a celebration of aunts of all kinds, of all generations, both honorary and otherwise.
So your first one, the fry bread one, is coming out, and that's for young adult, right?
That's for young adults,
and
Here Come the Aunties is a picture book.
And when are those both coming out?
2025.
Oh, cool.
So soon.
Few months.
In publishing world, that's just tomorrow.
All right. So tell me again your website and how people can learn more about you and how they can find your books and learn all about all the great things that you're doing.
Yes, I'm at CynthiaLeitichSmith.com. Leitich is Leitich. Maybe you can put it up for folks. And I'm especially interested to hear from, Indigenous teachers, librarians. If someone is out there and they are an aspiring Native writer or illustrator, I would love to point them in the right directions and lift them up. We are absolutely 100% here for each other.
Okay. And do you give out your email or just they should go to your website?
Go to the website and you can click the form to write me.
Okay, cool. I cannot thank you enough for taking time to talk to us, read the book. The new books, I can't wait to see those either. We love your Jingle Dancer book. Honestly, we have all your books in our library here, and we use them and love them. And
I'm so honored.
Listen, I am just thrilled to talk to you today and learn more about what you've been doing. And I think Heart Drum, I'm going to check that out. I think that sounds really interesting, and getting more people, getting their voices out there and more exposure. So thank you, Cynthia.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a great one. And if there's ever anything I can do, just holler.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy. Sound engineer is Javier Quiroga. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.